Hi everyone, before I go off to sleep, I just wanted to actually make this video about something that has been on my mind just recently. I wanted to say something because in my prior videos I talk a lot about I know that not everyone thinks that way, but and not everyone really believes in the same things. But there's this whole thing that I was talking to one friend about concerning why some women, okay, not just women, sometimes even men as well, okay, they have this thing about the women, especially women. What is it with them when they actually believe in their pastors, okay, and then they actually end up even like worshiping these pastors. I mean, for the case of the women, obviously, is a lot of this. There's always this element uh, in some psychological studies involved. They say that psychologists, they say that, and not just psychologists but even those people doing the surveys and sociological studies, they actually suggested that these women have sexual attraction to their pastors. And why the reasons why they are sexually attracted to their pastors, although the pastors were married with sometimes even like children as well, other than just a wife. And there's so many other things going along as well. And the thing is this, it links back the whole idea of the so-called complex, the kind of image that hangs around the pastor, like, oh, this person who's like very masculine, very very well or very attractive in some ways, that some even if it's in a spiritual sense. But taking that aside, okay, the reason why I'm talking about this has to do with something else. Why is it that they are able to fall prey to all this? Something. Okay, this is linked to another thing that I'm going to talk about. That friend, okay, whom I was talking to, he said this because he doesn't really attend church now, and as someone who has studied enough of the Bible and things like that, he said that a lot of the problem with a lot of modern day churches is that a lot of them are very much social affairs, and regardless of the denomination, everything. And okay, that said, I told him about that one friend who was promoting that, now former friend whom I don't talk anymore, from New Creation Church. I told him, this friend of mine, okay, or this former friend of mine, she's promoting fear-based Christianity, okay. But at the same time, while I really don't think that I really like her very much as a person, based on the way she treated me and the way she used it to try to promote a so-called health scare, which obviously isn't working on me, because if it had worked on me, obviously I would have either remained an evangelical or even become like a Pentecostal who attends her church, okay, which teaches the hypergrace gospel. He said, oh, it's hypergrace, the people are there, they believe the hypergrace gospel, which is obviously you can sin and do whatever you want to do, and you still be safe anyway regardless of that, and you can escape hell. But I told him there's one thing that actually got him to react accordingly. I said, do you know that one thing about that friend, that female friend? The reason why she actually even joined that church, okay, based on what I gather, was that that particular church has a so-called bereavement ministry, okay, with regards to her father, her late father, who passed. And I didn't know what, because I mean, actually it was quite a long time. It was in 2014. There was a kind of diagnosis that she told me that her father had a so-called, a diagnosis in that the doctor said, you know what, you don't have much, your father doesn't have much of time left, maybe half a year to 1 year at the most, after the diagnosis of cancer. And for the, I mean, it's taking aside the thing about, I don't know about the father, whether he actually does things like smoke or drink. Partly is also genetic, as we know. But there's something else that was involved. And she said that she claimed that her father was actually healed miraculously of the cancer. Okay, I don't know how true that is. I can't vouch. Maybe it's true, maybe it's not true. And then I don't know when that funeral was as well. There was a period when she was actually in a Methodist church, okay, and then after that she left for New Creation Church, which was obviously a mega church, Pentecostal word of faith. But and I told that friend, you know the reason why it actually works on her to that she refuses to leave no matter what, taking her aside her so-called attraction, okay, in the sexual or emotional sense to the chief pastor Joseph Prince, okay, who's actually a heretic in many ways and probably exploiting everyone's gullibility. It's like, why was she even gullible in the first place to begin with? And that friend said they took advantage of her vulnerability. And I was like, oh yes, that makes perfect sense, because after all, it's not just the whole fear of hell, whatever, because the thing is, after her father passed, obviously she has been thinking a lot about things like hell and whatever, and what's her fate and the afterlife, and she keeps on reminding me a lot of that, although I don't think it's very healthy anyway, because that our fates are ultimately in the hands of God. And you know what, I don't believe in hell as a physical place, not in the understanding of the way that the early church taught, not among the church fathers. And the strange thing was this, the way that she reacted, okay, especially not just in relation to the bereavement ministry. The thing is that the father was not baptized, or was not exactly, he wasn't baptized. So she claimed that he converted to become a Christian. I was like, how do you even know? Like, it's kind of odd. And then she said, oh, that aura, there's a kind of aura around when you just first become Christian. I don't know, it's just very magical thinking. And I told that friend, that a lot of Christians actually, especially those from the charismatic churches and the Pentecostal churches, there's this magical thinking which suspends all logic. And the main thing was that vulnerability, that bereavement ministry obviously spoke to her emotional needs, her vulnerability, and that's why she stayed on in that church, regardless of whether they're teaching the right things. And this reminds me of one thing, and not just in the context of religion or faith, but even in the context of why people, let's just say especially women, okay, or sometimes men too, okay, why do we fall prey to, just humans in general, why do we fall prey to people who actually don't mean something good for us? They mean to exploit us, make use of us, to get control and manipulation over us, over our also called maybe blind faith, okay, or over even just over our lives and whatever. Okay, the one thing that he said was vulnerability. Yes, vulnerability. They take advantage of our vulnerability, but that vulnerability, how does it even work against us? It wouldn't really work against us if we aren't aware of it. And it's not just that, but what was the technique used by that particular group, okay, in that case that church, or in not that church, or even let's say in the case of people who fall prey to predators, could be sexual, could be financial, could be friendship, could be a job. That's one thing, one factor. The one major factor is actually love bombing. Okay, I mean, I know that people will say, oh, like, but the bombing is not so easy to tell apart, and or at least some people say, oh, you know what, we can always recognize it, but it's not true, because the fact is, people who are very covert, who are very astute in manipulating others, for them, love bombing is actually quite a craft or skill that they are very good at. And the thing was, she was telling me that her father's funeral was not a Christian funeral, because she was the only one who was Christian, but allegedly Christian, although I don't think the church teaches right things. But her brother, her older brother, and her twin sister, who's older than her by a few minutes or whatever, none of them were Christians, and not even her mother, okay, who was divorced from her father. So, and of course, I think the spouses of her brother, and also of also her twin sister, now they were Christian, so she was only Christian in a sense. But what was it about the thing about the church speaking to that so-called witnessing or being able to reach out to them or to fulfill your so-called emotional needs during her period of vulnerability. Obviously, she said, oh, they prepared a funeral wreath. There's a big one for the church, regardless of whether it was a Christian funeral or not, because she was actually a member. And I was like, wow, okay. I don't even recall that my church actually did that kind of stuff back when I was in the Bible, not Bible Presbyterian church, in the Korean Presbyterian church. And that's the whole thing we say that about. The whole thing is all these religious groups, they are able to so-called love bomb you and bombard you and put all this emotions of love or show those emotions of love in you, or invest them in you on the initial stage. And that most of us will end up being overwhelmed. And for those who are very vulnerable, of course when we're in a moment of crisis or weakness, we will fall prey to that. And I think that it's not just like in the context of religion itself, but even in the context of, let's say, romantic relationships or even friendships. When you first encounter that one person, that person who seems to be very interested in us, they will, that the things I realized it because I've fallen prey by myself before, and years ago during that ex-narc. I didn't realize it, and sometimes even not just with the ex-narc, even with a former friend, it's like they always show that kind of initial interest in your life, or we are like, oh, meant to be good friends or meant to be in a relationship, whatever, or because the whole thing about, oh, everything is written in the stars. And for us, when we want to believe the best in everyone, we are very vulnerable, we believe in it, okay? But the thing is this, since there's love bombing on their side, okay, those who are trying to exploit us, and it's also our matched with our vulnerability, how are we going to actually forestall that? Especially when we are so vulnerable, we're going to be exploited. Okay, I know that most people say, oh, it's going to be too late by the time we know it. And because one thing, we probably could have been 1 foot deep in the so-called relationship or friendship or whatever, even professional association with them. But the thing is, next this thing is, how do we forestall it? There are a few things to do, okay? I really personally believe that these are very important. One thing, okay, I talk about this countless times. Boundaries, boundaries is like you just say no, okay? You have to put a distance, no matter what. I think even if you find that you're very comfortable with the person, you feel that the person, you can share things or whatever, don't go and do these things like be so enthusiastic at the beginning where you overshare everything, tell them everything about your life. And I know that people, we want to believe that there are such people, and maybe there are really such people who are really genuine, who actually are true, really don't have any ulterior motives, but never ever share everything, never ever go to that kind of extent. So oversharing is very, very, very dangerous, but that is a form of boundary setting that we must do. The first thing is say no. I'm not going to do it, or I can't do this, or I'm not in the state where I just let everything go and agree to what you want or what you think. And so I know that people will say, oh, but this makes you look like you're actually being so cautious and reading people wrongly, seeing the bad side of everyone. But it's not, actually it's actually protecting yourself. And I think every one of us have to learn somewhat of that, especially if you become too trusting towards people. And that when people start, let's just say if they are really, really, really respectful people, when you back off from them, they will read that thing accordingly, and they will know the correct ones. They respect you even more, and they will actually they will hang around you, okay? Those who don't, they can back off. I think that is even better that if they can just back off if they are really having ulterior motives. Okay, so the first thing is the boundaries. But I think the second thing we need to know how to do, okay, I'm not very good at doing that, but I think every one of us have to learn to do that eventually, is to test the person. Test that person for what their motives are. The thing is this, my friend used to say, how do we know that like someone has ulterior motives, like especially with the covert ones, like, and even that we have news in our time last time, like years ago, decades ago, about people like this, those psychopaths and narcissists, how they can really be so not implicit, not explicit, but implicit in the sense that they know how to hide themselves. And Ted Bundy, that was in the 1970s, yeah, 1970s and 1970s, yeah. He was a master of makeup and theatricality. Okay, everyone who there were some people who actually ended up getting, unalived by him, and there were some women who escaped. And the one thing I was really found across the board of what happened was that, other than him being able to actually pretend to be a man who was in need of help, that pretending to be maimed, whatever, the other thing was that he himself, okay, no one knew who he was, because they can't see beneath the surface. And but the thing is this: eventually, in retrospect, you realize that two and two, when you add them up together, you realize that these people actually, they have ulterior motives. For example, the one who became Ted Bundy's wife, okay, and who actually eventually divorced him or separated from him when he was due for his final capital punishment, okay, which was by the electric chair, I think. The thing was that, obviously, she was the defense attorney. She didn't realize that at the beginning, obviously, for her to actually fallen prey to him. But later on, bit by bit, she added it two and two together to realize, oh, you know what? I can't be really trying to defend this criminal, this psychopath who will go around basically destroying everyone. Not people, even especially women whom he does not know at all. Okay, and strangers. Okay, and we're talking about someone like, in the case of Ted Bundy, it's like he has at least destroyed the lives of over at least 30 women. Okay, he admitted to that, but there probably could have been more who were not discovered by the police. And that there was this documentary, not document, yeah, it was like a variety show, the Tyra Banks show. Okay, it was like more than 10 years ago. She was trying to set up a so-called date R something PE, okay, experiment, in which she was like, there are all these cameras being set up and all this stuff, people with private investigators with the cameras and everything, CCTVs, just to find out about this girl who claims that she won't get into trouble just by hookups and the clubs and the pubs. Obviously, the thing was this: that particular girl was 24 years old. She's an adult. She should be stopping that kind of thing. She shouldn't be meeting strangers in all these venues. But Tyra Banks tried to tell her, you know what? How sure are you that you're able to actually tell the difference between someone who has ulterior motives or someone who just wants to meet you as a friend? And he goes, I know. And then one funny thing was that Tyra showed three different pictures or photos of three different criminals, psychopaths, including one of Ted Bundy, and then the other one was this man who was called the Preppy Killer. And the funny thing was this: the girl was 24, so it's like, the Preppy Killer has very beautiful piercing blue eyes, but she wasn't even aware that he was a criminal. And so it's like, either way, it's like a lose-lose thing, in the sense of it wasn't a lose-lose thing. Tyra Banks basically won because she has proven her point that basically you can't judge a book by its cover. We have to know people by the signs, the dangers, the red flags. But obviously the girl didn't buy it. She just said, just what? It's just a one-off. I mean, and one of the therapists and another one who was like an author of a book about coaching and those danger red flags, they both said one thing. And I mean, especially the therapist, he said, you have grandiosity. You think that you are above all these kinds of things. Okay, your pride has gotten the better of you. I think this is with us as well. When we fall prey to something like that, love bombing, everything, we think that our pride is that we will not fall prey to it. But I mean, the truth is, we will fall prey. The more we think that we won't, the more we are likely to fall prey to manipulation. So that's why it's very important. Boundaries. Second, testing. Okay, the testing thing is very simple. You can say no, or simply just. I know that people say, "Oh, we are playing difficult to get." We're not playing difficult to get. We are not easy to get to begin with. We're not playing it. We are difficult to get. Okay, this is simply a thing, because you know what? Someone who wants to have access to us, they had better show that they are worth it. Okay, if they are not worth it, don't even associate with them. Okay, so anyway, that's it for now. Okay, I'm gonna talk a little bit more about this whole thing about the love bomb. This love bombing thing is a very, very insidious thing. In fact, it's much more dangerous than the so-called eventual thing like devaluation and discard. But yeah, but eventually we can't be so gullible now, especially in this day and age. Okay, so have a good one, everyone. Okay, thank you. Bye bye.